Vice President J.D. Vance arriving in Israel earlier this morning to meet with Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff to implement Trump's peace deal. Israel launching retaliatory strikes in the Gaza Strip against Hamas after they violated the ceasefire, killing 2 IDF soldiers. The president weighing in on the attacks during a meeting with the Australian Prime Minister at the White House yesterday. Watch.
We have a little situation relatively with Hamas, and that will be taken care of very quickly if they don't straighten it out themselves, because they're in violation of their agreement. We made a deal with Hamas that, you know, they're going to be very good, they're going to behave, they're going to be nice, and if they're not, we're going to go and we're going to eradicate them if we have to. They'll be eradicated, and they know that. They went in, and I don't believe it was the leadership, but they had some rebellion in there among themselves, and they killed some people, you know, a lot of people. But this is a violent group. They got very rambunctious, and they did things that they shouldn't be doing. And if they keep doing it, then we're going to go in and straighten it out, and it'll happen very quickly and pretty violently, unfortunately.
Joining me now, former senior director for the National Security Council and principal architect of the Abraham Accords, Robert Greenway. Robert, your reaction to everything that we have been seeing playing out in the Middle East, and also with the vice president now in Israel today, do you think that this furthers the conversation and gets us closer to completing the 20-point plan?
Well, thanks for having me this morning. We're only 11 days into a historic ceasefire agreement that could only be brokered by President Trump, Secretary Rubio, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Jared Kushner. And now with Vice President Vance's arrival in Israel, I think we're seeing a real commitment to making this work. But only 11 days into it, we're still in the first phase. We had our first violation that the president just spoke about. And he's been explicit, as he often is, about the consequences of continued violations. But the most important thing is that the president has secured the release of the living hostages. All 20 were returned last week. And second, that he's built a coalition or restored a coalition that he built during the first Trump administration that resulted in the Abraham Accords. And that coalition now stands with the United States and Israel for the execution of this agreement. Now, most don't think it'll enter the second phase, but I think there's now cause for optimism that we haven't seen in over 2 years.
Well, something that you were, of course, the architect of, well, the Abraham Accords. It's the 5-year anniversary. That was last month. And that did secure peace for Israel with the UAE and with Morocco, Bahrain, Sudan. You know, and now the president's looking to go further and include Saudi Arabia. Watch this.
Do you expect an expansion of the Abraham Accords?
I do, almost soon. I don't want to use the word immediate, but soon. The Abraham Accords are a miracle in a way. And the 4 countries that went in initially, including UAE, highly respected, big and highly respected, they stayed in, and they're doing incredibly well. I mean, they're basically trading with Israel and have access and everything else. I mean, it's good for everybody. I hope to see Saudi Arabia go in, and I hope to see others go in. I think when Saudi Arabia goes in, everybody goes in.
So they've indicated to you a willingness to do so?
Oh, they have, even as recently as like yesterday. I had some very good conversations.
You know, and Robert, as the principal architect of that peace agreement, how significant would it be for the Middle East to have Saudi Arabia be a part of the Abraham Accords? We thought we were moving towards that, and then October 7th happened.
Well, you're right. The president alone could conclude the Abraham Accords, supported by an expert team that I had the privilege of working with. And I think only President Trump could secure an expansion of the agreements. And now with the ceasefire agreement in place, I think the last remaining obstacle is there. We had conversations with our Saudi counterparts and many in the region and outside the region, quite frankly. You saw the Indonesian leadership historically visit Israel and also make some interesting comments at his address to the General Assembly in the UN in New York. And so I think the expansion is now back set in motion. That was done when the president concluded the first agreement in his first term. And I think it would be epic, and it would be historic, and it would be the mark of a new era. And it also, I think, is to the credit of Israel and the United States for decimating Iran and its axis of resistance and eliminating the cloud of the Iranian nuclear program that has really opened the daylight here for the region to enter into a new era. And it would be, from an economic and security perspective, absolutely historic.
Hamas, their role in this, they've got to put their weapons down. One question, do you think that they will they have not yet? Number two, this Middle East peace team, these countries that would go into Gaza and be the peacekeeping force in the region. Do you like that idea, first and foremost, but also can we trust that will be handled accordingly to keep Israel safe?
Well, that is a great question, the question of the hour. And look, you're showing footage now of Hamas putting on their uniforms and returning to the terrorist activity for which they are defined, and executing Palestinian citizens without international repercussions or protests, I might add, in ways that we haven't seen since ISIS has returned, because essentially they share the same ideology and the same tactics. We also, of course, as you know, saw the execution of, or the killing of 2 Israeli Defense Force soldiers just this weekend on the Israeli side of the yellow line, withdrawn in accordance with the agreement. And the violation was addressed, and we have a ceasefire resumed. But in the end, an international peacekeeping force is probably required. We know that it will not involve U.S. troops, boots on the ground inside Gaza, but observation from a distance, much as you see the U.S. security coordinator doing in Judea, Samaria, the West Bank territories now. And so necessary, but I don't know that we'll get to the point where Hamas disarms to allow that to occur. Planning begins in the next week or so for phase 2, and we'll see whether Hamas is willing to disarm. The president was explicit on what will happen if they don't.
Absolutely. And you're right. This is the more difficult part of all of this. Robert Greenway, it's always a pleasure to speak with you on this topic. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right.